Hello everyone. I, Dr. Mohammad Asif, Assistant Professor at Banarsidas Chandiwala Institute of Physiotherapy. On behalf of BCIP, I would like to welcome you all on Alumni Talk series. We are here to discuss muscle length testing. Today with us, we have a renowned neurophysiotherapist, Dr. Sonal Sharma. Let's greet our alumni today. Thank you, Dr. Sonal, for joining us. Our guest, Dr. Sonal Sharma, he is a neurophysiotherapist, did his master from BCIP at 2011 batch. He is presently working at NeuroEd and Research Foundation, New Delhi as a senior clinical physiotherapist, where at the start of his career, he worked in KR Hospital, Sukhmani Hospital, and Handicapped Children Rehabilitation Association. He had been a personal physio to many renowned personalities as well, like Uma Bharti. She was our central minister, chairman of Santosh Medical College, and state minister, Mr. Kailash Gehlot. He is very passionate learner and believes to deliver his best when it comes to treat the facilitate rehabilitation among patients. I appreciate on behalf of BCIP admirable work of him done in the field of physiotherapy. Now I would like Dr. Sonal to take over the session and enlighten us with the muscle and testing. Dr. Sonal Sharma, kindly proceed.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammad Asif, and thank you for this warm introduction. It's my privilege to be a part of the BCIP Alumni Series webinar. So, without wasting any time, shall we start the topic? I'll be sharing the I'll be sharing my PPT. Just wait. Is it clear? Is it visible?
It is not visible,
No.
Sonal.
It is not. Wait, ma'am. Now, ma'am.
Yeah, it's visible,
Is it
Sonal.
visible?
So, so I welcome all the participants here in this talk. My today's topic is muscle length testing. It is a tool in motor examination. The whole topic has been taken from joint range of motion and muscle length testing. If anyone want to relearn the things, he or she can go and visit this book. So muscle length testing, it is also expressed in terms of degree of joint motion to the length of the muscle. It refers to the ability of the muscle surrounding the joint to lengthen, allowing one joint or a series of joints to move through the available range of motion, which consists of movements that increase the distance between origin and insertion, therefore elongating the muscle in direction opposite to the muscle action. It is performed to determine whether the range of muscle length is normal, limited, or excessive. If the muscle length is normal, then it's okay. If the muscle length is limited, then it indicates that the muscle is weak and or it's excessive. This also indicates that the muscle is lax. Joint has laxity. So in this, when we examine the muscle length, the bone of origin should be fixed and the bone of insertion moves in the direction of the lengthening of the muscle. So we have tightness, which is a mild decrease in the length of the muscle, adaptive shortening, which is the moderate decrease in the short length of the muscle, contracture, it is a kind of deformity which cannot be cured. So factor influencing muscle length are immobilization, sedentary living, gender, age, injury. So indication, loss of range of motion, overuse syndrome, soft tissue injury, changes in muscle extensibility that may contribute to movement impairment. When we don't need to do muscle length testing, there are two conditions. One is an acute neurological trauma. Second is joint injury, fracture. So the protocol, when we do examination of muscle length, we need to keep in mind these 4 points. First, patient must be in correct test position. Determine whether the patient will perform passively or actively. Muscle being assessed is placed in fully elongated position, and motion should not be blocked by support surface or pillow. These are the key points we need to keep in mind while doing muscle length testing. Muscle length is measured using primarily two methods. One is traditional composite test, which consists of measuring movement across more than one muscle or more than one joint. Second method is direct measurement, which is called muscle length testing. As you can see the image, these all are the composite tests in which there are multiple joints involved. In standing, in sitting, as you can see in the Applis Crest test, where this joining hand at the back requires shoulder normal range of motion. Cross reported that a lack of flexibility and strength were major factor in the high incidence of back pain in the United States, leading to further increase in use of fitness testing. So experts have shown that it is possible to have ideal muscle length in one muscle crossing a joint and poor flexibility at another joint in the body. So Harris suggested that there is no evidence that flexibility exists as a single general characteristic of the human body. So no one composite test can give a satisfactory index of the flexibility characteristic of an individual. Bublik-Kozzi suggested that composite tests do not provide accurate measurement of flexibility. So here comes the need of the muscle length testing. So I'll start with presenting the muscle length testing from the upper extremity. The muscle is called latissimus dorsi. As you can see the image, patient is in supine lying position. Low back is flat, head is in neutral position. Examiner should stand at the tested side, but due to the photo to show the marking at the lateral epicondyle and the posterior aspect of the shoulder, the examiner is standing on the contralateral side. So the action required here is examiner passively flexing the shoulder and try to touch the surface. If he is able to do without any resistance, that indicate that there is no tightness in latissimus dorsi. But as you can see in this picture, examiner is not able to flex the shoulder properly. So this degree from the couch to the lateral epicondyle, the distance indicate that there is a tightness in the latissimus dorsi. Now comes the medial and lateral rotators. Again, as you can see the image, patient is in supine lying position, low back flat, head is in neutral position, knee flexed on the table. In this, patient bring the forearms down toward the table parallel with the head. It's a 90 degree of position, which indicate there is the lateral rotator length is in normal condition. Note, if the external rotation shows normal range of teres major muscle, that indicate that there is a tightness in the latissimus dorsi, because both the muscle function require external rotation. As you can see in this picture, there is a decrease in the medial rotator muscle length because the hand and the couch, there is a gap in between, and you can measure the distance through the inchy tape as well as from the goniometer. pectoralis major muscle. Again, patient position. The patient is in supine line, arms at side, low back flat on the couch. Examiner asks the patient to clasp hand behind his neck and does not flex his cervical spine. Will ask the patient to relax his shoulder, allowing elbows to move towards the couch. If he is able to do so, then this indicates there is no tightness in pectoralis major muscle. But if it is not, then you can see in second image, the examiner is measuring through inch tape the distance between the couch and elbow, which clearly indicate that there is a tightness in the pectoralis major muscle. Pectoralis major muscle has two heads, sternal head and clavicular head. So as you can see, sternal head 135 degrees of abduction with lateral rotation, and clavicular head is in 90 degrees of abduction. Same as I have explained previously, if the elbow touches the couch, in the fourth picture, if the elbow touches the couch, then this indicates that there is no tightness in the muscle. But if it is not, you can clearly see in the fourth image that examiner is measuring the distance between the lateral epicondyle to the couch, which clearly indicate there is a tightness present either in the sternal head or in the clavicular head. And if you want to check the excessive length of the muscle, just place the position at the edge of the table so that the arm can drop down freely. As you can see in the third picture, the arm can drop down from the edge. It clearly indicates there is a laxity or excessive length in the sternal head because arm is in 135 degrees of abduction. Pectoralis minor muscle, the same position. Make sure that patient maintain arms at side with palms up and lumbar spine flat against the support surface. Patient must relax his shoulder muscle, allowing posterior border of the acromion process to move towards support surface. If there is a tightness present in the pectoralis minor muscle, then you can easily find the tilting of the anterior tip of the shoulder, and you can directly measure from the acromion process to the support surface through inch tape, which clearly indicate that there is a tightness in the pectoralis minor muscle. Tricep, as you can see in this, examiner passively flexes the shoulder muscle, stabilizing the shoulder and flexing the elbow to the full range of motion. If examiner is able to do so, then it indicates that length of the muscle is normal. But if it is not, as you can see in the second picture, this clearly indicates there is a tightness in the tricep muscle. You can measure it from the inch tape as well, and you can use goniometer as well. Now come bicep. Again, position of the patient should be in supine line, low back flat, head is in neutral position, arms at the side of the body. You extend the shoulder through available range of motion while maintaining elbow in full extension, as you can see. If the examiner find any kind of resistance while performing this movement, this clearly indicates yes, there is a tightness in the bicep muscle. Coracobrachialis. In this, the patient position is in supine line. Examiner stand at the tested side. Head is in neutral position, low back flat. Examiner left hand places on the shoulder to stabilize the joint, shoulder girdle movement, and one hand at the elbow, at the wrist joint. If there appear to be an anterior tilt of the shoulder, suggesting tightness in the pectoralis minor, as I already described, if there is an anterior tilt in the shoulder present, then there may be chances of the tightness in the pectoralis minor muscle. But how to isolate whether the tightness present in the pectoralis muscle or the coracobrachialis or the bicep muscle? So what the examiner will do or you will do is you must bend the subject elbow in full flexion to isolate the bicep. If the shoulder displays somewhat further downward, then it clearly indicates the bicep is the part of the problem. While maintaining the pressure, lift the elbow as seen in the picture 4. While maintaining the pressure of at the shoulder, examiner lift the elbow to 6 to 8 inches to put coracobrachialis on slack, means to isolate coracobrachialis. If the shoulder is further depressed, this indicates that the coracobrachialis is the part of the problem. So you can use this method to you know to differential diagnose or to get which muscle is tight or which muscle is not. Now lumbricals and interossei, as you can see the picture A, this position while holding a play card, this position is strong lumbricals and interossei requires action. So shortening was found in the middle finger. As you can see, there is a slight hyperextension in the middle finger. So when we ask the patient to make a fist, it is possible he is able to do so. It is because muscle were being elongated over the interphalangeal joint, not the metacarpal joint. Now ask the patient to make a claw hand. So shortness become apparent. In this, lumbar interossei must elongate over all 3 joints, where ring finger shows greater limitation, which indicate lack of distal joint flexion as well as decreased hyperextension at the metacarpophalangeal joint. D. In this, you can ask the patient to extend the finger. Patient could extend the finger because muscle were being elongated over the metacarpal phalangeal joint. But you can see there is a slight hyperextension at the distal interphalangeal joint. Image E and image F, as you ask the patient to spread the fingers or close the sidewise, this could be possible because it suggests that the shortness may have been in the lumbricals rather than in interossei. So upper extremity has been done. I've tried to cover maximum muscle I can. So now it's for lower extremity. We have iliopsoas, rectus femoris, hamstring, iliotibial band and tension fascia lata, gastrocnemius and soleus. Here, as you can see, the patient is in the couch. As you can see in the first picture, low back is not flat. Thigh is touching the couch and knee is at 90 degrees of angle. If iliopsoas is within normal limit, the thigh of lower extremity being measured remains on examining table, as you can see in the first image. Examiner will passively flex hip and knee of the contralateral side to make the back flat, and by doing so, if the tested side of the thigh will rise from the examining table, this clearly indicates there is a tightness in the iliopsoas. Iliopsoas is the one joint muscle. Rectus femoris. Rectus femoris is a 2 joint muscle. Same position, thighs at the couch with 90 degrees of knee flexion. The examiner flexes the hip and knee at the contralateral side to make the back flat, and by doing so, if the knee extends further, as you can see in the second picture, this clearly indicates there is a tightness in the rectus femoris. So while flexing the contralateral side, if the thigh is lifting from the examining table, this indicate iliopsoas is the part of the problem. And if knee is extending, this indicate rectus femoris. If both are performing, like it's, if thigh is also lifting from the table and knee is also extending, then it indicate both are tight, iliopsoas and rectus femoris. It is just to give a gist that if you see the first picture, that subject does not have lordosis in standing position. This indicates there is no shortness in one joint hip flexors. But if you ask the patient to go into a kneeling position, that will put a stretch on the short rectus femoris and tension fascia lata over both the joint, causing these muscles to pull the pelvis into anterior tilt and back into lordotic position. So this also indicates that there is a tightness in the rectus femoris and tension fascia lata, which is a two joint muscle. Hamstring. Here, same, the low back is flat. Patient is in supine position at on the couch, and there should be no hindrance. So examiner flexes the patient hip through full available range of motion while maintaining knee in full extension. One hand is placed over anterior thigh to ensure that knee is maintained in full extension during movement, and hip is flexed until firm muscular resistance to further motion. While doing this movement, passively lifting the leg, flexing the hip, if the examiner is finding any resistance below 70 to 80 degree, this clearly indicated there is a tightness in the hamstring muscle. We need to be very cautious while measuring muscle length of hamstring muscle, because this is the only position through which we can check. If the contralateral side, I have seen many of the examiner, many of the therapists performing hamstring stretch or hamstring muscle length test while flexing hip and contralateral side, hip and knee flex and ankle on the table. What will this position do? This position will make the low back free, pelvis free, and make the sacrum flat. So it will interfere with the muscle length testing. So the correct position should be the contralateral leg should be in supine position, not in the flex position on the couch. Again, the contralateral leg is in supine position. Extend patient knee through full available range of motion while maintaining hip and knee in 90 degrees of flexion. The passive movement allows an estimate of range of motion available and demonstrate the patient exact movement desired. As you can see, this will clearly indicate that there is no tightness in the muscle of the hamstring. Iliotibial band and tension fascia lata. Ask the patient to relax muscle of lower extremity. Here in this first image, patient should be in supine position. The lower leg should be flexed to make to be in relaxed position. Ask the patient to relax muscle of lower extremity while allowing uppermost limb to drop into adduction toward table through available range of motion. As limb drop toward table, examiner prevent flexion and internal rotation of hip. If hip is allowed to internally rotate and flex, tensor fascial lata and iliotibial band are no longer in lengthened position and are not accurately tested. As you can see, test is considered positive for tight tensor fascial lata and iliotibial band if relaxed hip remain abducted and does not fall below horizontal. Now you can see the last image, the incorrect patient position for performing orbitals allowing flexion and internal rotation of the hip being tested. Here you can see the flexion of the hip and internal rotation of the hip. So this should be prevented by the examiner or by the therapist. Gastrocnemius, again it is a two joint muscle. Dorsiflex, the patient position is in supine line. Ankle should be out of the couch. to permit the full range of motion. Dorsiflex, patient ankle range of motion while maintaining knee in full extension. This passive movement allow an estimate of range of motion. In this, we need to see subtalar joint should be in neutral position to prevent pronation and supination. Soleus popliteus, it is a one joint muscle. So dorsiflex patient's ankle through full available range of motion while maintaining hip and knee in 45 degrees of flexion. While doing 45 degrees of flexion, this will isolate the soleus from gastrocnemius. That is why it is examiner will do in 45 degrees of flexion, as you can see. So dorsiflex the patient ankle in this position and see whether there is any resistance or not. If there is any resistance, then it clearly indicates that there is a tightness in the soleus muscle. So here are the key points which every therapist need to keep in mind as well while performing muscle length testing, like lower back arches, because majority of the tested position is in the supine line. So therapist should look for lower back arches. If the lower back arch is present, then shoulder flexion or lateral rotation will appear greater in shoulder joint rather than the normal one. If chest is depressed, medial rotation will appear greater than actual range. Tightness of the upper abdominals will depress the chest, pull shoulder forward like kyphosis of upper back. It will also interfere with the length of the muscle. Contracted pectoralis minor tilt the scapula anteriorly and shoulder girdle downward and forward, which hamper the flexion of shoulder joint. If low back hyperextended and pelvis in anterior tilt, the hip joint is in flexion, then hamstring appears to be short. If it is to be normal, if the hamstring is normal and the low back is hyperextended and the pelvis is in anterior tilt, then the hamstring appears to be short. These few things need to be looked while examining the muscle length testing. And in posterior tilt of the pelvis, hamstring length appear to be greater than normal. I've just quoted a study someone has done to evaluate if there is any relationship between hand dominance and shoulder girdle muscle length in athletes. So materials method is 60 athletes between the age group of 18 to 25 who were recruited from various sports clubs and organization in Karnataka. So athletes playing overhead sports short tight lateral rotators of the dominant hand when compared to non-dominant hand. So those playing contact sports and athletes showed tight rhomboids of both dominant and non-dominant hand and tight lateral rotators of both hand. So conclusion is there exists a relationship between hand dominance and shoulder girdle muscle length in athletes. So my purpose of quoting this study is that people or the professional are using these technique to to know and to verify whether the muscles are tight or not, or whether the muscle tightness has any impact on the performance of the athletes or the people or their functional outcome. Thank you. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sonal. That was a really exemplary and elaborate explanation. Now I would like to some question from our audience also. Sonal, first question is, any limitation of these muscle length testing?
Yes, I have already described in the PPT. It's like fracture or any neurological condition. We don't do muscle length testing. I think these are the conditions which limits. We don't need to do muscle length testing in these.
Okay, thank you so much. Another question is optimal muscle length is important for the rehabilitation process?
Yeah, definitely optimal muscle length is very important in rehabilitation. If you know the correct length pattern, then it would be easier to diagnose the problem, whether it is from the bony prominence or actually it's the tightness of the muscle. As you can see, many patient comes to the clinic with a pain in their neck or in their back without any kind of injury or trauma. So I think if the therapist knows how to diagnose or how to examine which muscle is tight, so it will help in making the rehabilitation better, I think.
Thank you. Thank you for the lovely explanation. We had seen in your PPT and explanation that lots of tests for the muscle length testing. It is normal or abnormal. So my question is this: are these tests are reliable for assessing the muscle length?
As far as I know, yes, many professionals and many of my colleagues are practicing it, and many studies has been done on muscle and testing as well. So I think yes, these tests are reliable, and I've already referred the name of the book which I have taken the topic from. So yes, it is reliable.
Thank you so much. Dr. Sonal, my last question is a little bit out of the context. Uh, as we know that you are practicing in such a stream organization, NeuroAid Research Foundation, and you had also experience with the KR hospital in so many workplaces. So my question is, how did the learning and skills you acquired in BCIP help you out there?
Uh, it's, ECIP, it was my second home, I can say, because most of my time has been spent there only. And yes, I would say BCIP has transformed me from student to a professional physiotherapist. And it has groomed me not only clinically, but socially as well, in building my confidence and presenting myself to other platforms. Now also, Banarsi Chandiwala only has given me the opportunity to present myself through the webinar in the alumni series. So I think BCI has done a great job and great things for me. And I would recommend all the participant. I think all majority of the participants are student here. So I would really recommend that if you want to become a a good professional physiotherapist, then Banarsi Chandiwala is the right choice for you. Uh, as I am what I am today is because of BCIP only.
Thank you so much. We are amazed that you have such a good experience in our esteemed organization. It was such a pleasure having you as a STEAM resource person here. On behalf of DCIP, I would like to thank you so much for enlightening us and making us more knowledgeable. So, thank you so much, Dr. Sonal. For the viewers, those who are not still channel, kindly subscribe our YouTube channel for the more study material, more informative lecture, and many more things. Our next topic of a webinar, lose it with exercise, the sisters. Soon it will be on 3rd of July, taken by our